Good evening, this is Dave Paul here at my carving bench in one corner of our shop in Asakusa, Tokyo. I have good news and bad news. The downside first. You are not going to see any actual carving or printing in this video. Sorry. The upside though is that this is episode number 1. Simply the introduction to what is going to be a major series of videos that do indeed have plenty of real printmaking meat. Many of you are perhaps familiar with the series that I made documenting the production of our version of Hokusai's Great Wave print. When I started making those many years ago, I had originally thought that there would be 3, perhaps 4 episodes. It was going to be tracing, carving, printing, and then a wrap-up. As we all now know, that was a gross underestimate. It has expanded to 17 episodes on YouTube, and I think it's not over yet. If all goes well, the video you are now watching will be the first in another such extended documentation process. Just how many episodes this one will take is completely unknown to me at present. We're going to be making it up as we go along. So, given that sort of puff introduction, what's the project? What am I going to undertake that could be as long and involved as that Great Wave affair? Well, for a start, it's not going to be about a single print this time. I'll be covering our next subscription series, the prints we plan to issue through 2023. That will be a very different project, one quite long and complex and completely worthy of careful documentation. Now, some of our subscription sets are reproductions of existing old woodblock prints, as was the case with our Hokusai set a couple of years back. Other times we work with a designer, most frequently Jed Henry, to keep a brand new set of prints from new designs and drawings. This upcoming series will kind of be both. But how can that be possible? Reproductions of old designs, creating new original prints. Aren't those two things completely incompatible? Actually, not at all. And at this point, some of you will perhaps understand what I am planning here, especially viewers of our Twitch streams who have seen me working on this off and on over the past couple of months. Let me show you a news clipping from a couple of years back. This was news that was covered all around the world. You must have heard about it at the time. The British Museum in London has added 103 recently uncovered drawings by the Japanese painter and printmaker Katsushika Hokusai to its collection. The works, which resurfaced in Paris last year, were created in 1829 for an unpublished book titled The Great Picture Book of Everything. Now, the discovery of a group of old drawings that were planned for use in woodblock print production, but which didn't actually end up being used, is not unique. A number of museums around the world have such material. The Boston Museum of Fine Arts preserves more Hokusai drawings. The Victoria and Albert in London has an extensive group, and the British Museum itself has even more, including a very large collection of spectacular drawings by Yoshitoshi. Now, how could this happen that so many such items come to be preserved? The normal process of making woodblock prints in the traditional Japanese manner involves the design being finalized onto a very thin sheet of paper. This is the hanshita or hanshita-e. That paper is then passed to a carver who pastes it down onto the wood to guide his cutting. The sheet is thus destroyed as a natural part of the process of replicating the image. So those hanshita that have been preserved all represent projects that must have been cancelled at a late stage of production. Each of those projects must have been planned, preparatory drawings made, refined, with everything prepped to nearly the final stage before the manufacturing process would begin. But at that point, for some reason, production did not move forward. Publisher bankruptcy, slump in the economy, censorship issues, lackluster sales of similar work. There are many possible explanations, but we'll almost certainly never know the exact reason for any particular case, including this one. But their loss is, of course, our gain. This publisher is not bankrupt. No censorship issues here. slump in the economy, let's move along. But it's an obvious idea to pick up where the original publisher left off and carry these designs through to the production stage. Hokusai's designs, after a pause of nearly 200 years, can actually come to life as woodblock prints. I said a minute ago, though, that design sheets like this are destroyed in the process of printmaking. So surely we can't do this. Excuse me, British Museum? How about if I borrow those Hokusai sheets from you? No, you won't get them back. They will be actually chopped up. Now, of course, that's not possible, but we have tools that weren't available back then. We don't need the actual pieces of paper. We need the information. The museum staff can prepare high-resolution photographs for us to work with. Now, actually, this idea of using old drawings to make new prints is not some novel idea unique to me. Exactly this sort of project has indeed been undertaken in the past. Here's an example. Back in the 1920s, a set of Hiroshige designs surfaced, and with the cooperation of the collector who held the designs, a Japanese publisher had a set of prints made. I have one of them here. Hiroshige's original design probably dates from 1847. This one came to life in 1928. Now that makes it a Hiroshige original, and quite nicely made it is. But it didn't stop there. That same set was copied in 1979 with another publisher making a new version. There's more of Hiroshige's designs, these dating from about the 1830s. These were turned into a set of prints in the early, I think it was 1970s, by a publisher in London. He commissioned craftsmen over in Japan to do the actual production. So let's put this all together, and obviously you can see where this is heading. I guess this is the official announcement. My company, Mokuhankan, and our group of craftspeople are collaborating with the British Museum to produce a set of woodblock prints based on those Hokusai designs in their collection. And we will publish a group of them as our subscription series for 2023. Now, we can't possibly undertake production of the entire set. As you read there, they have 103 of the drawings. That's enough to make a multi-volume series of books. Now, back in the Edo period, a publisher could handle a project like that because he had access to a vast pool of carvers and printers. We are just a handful of people. So working together with the curator team in London, we have come up with a selection of 12 of the designs. I'll cover the exact selection and discuss them in depth in subsequent videos in this series. But for now, I can mention that the drawings fall into a few categories, reflecting the roots of Hokusai's culture. For the European culture into which I was born, major historical influences were Greece and Rome. For Japan, the major influences were from mainland Asia, specifically China and India, and we will visit and learn about iconography from both of those areas. This will be supplemented with something never far from Hokusai's interest, a collection of nature scenes. It should be a very diverse and hopefully very interesting set of prints. When talking with people earlier about this project, I was asked, Dave, why do you need the British Museum? This is public domain material. Well, yes, technically, I guess it is. Under current Japanese law, copyright in something like an image persists for 70 years after the death of the designer. Hokusai is long gone, and in any case, there was no copyright in the modern sense back in his day. Anyway, these images are part of our global inheritance. They belong to us all. What the British Museum brings to the table in this project is openness. For all the years between Hokusai and now, these designs were tucked away in a drawer in some collector's home, totally inaccessible to us all. But under the open philosophy of the British Museum, they have been released, ready to come alive for us all again. There's access. The museum is making available very high resolution photographs of the drawings, and this is an essential element for us in our production process. And then there's curation. Making prints from these drawings is actually not going to be a simple and straightforward process, as we will discover in this video series as we move along. The staff there has studied these and other similar drawings and prints quite extensively and will hopefully be able to guide our production team on critical points of production. We're going to meet some of the team from the British Museum in subsequent videos in this series, and I understand that they are also planning their own video coverage of this project. So from our point of view, we are treating the museum as the de facto designer on this project, and we will be paying them the royalty on each and every print sold. For those of you who have seen many of our older videos, including those great wave ones, and who are perhaps already jumping ahead of me on a point of major concern here, I can add at this point that yes, I and my staff members will indeed be discussing our plans with Hokusai himself. I don't think we need to ask his permission, but in accordance with Japanese traditions and expectations, we will be making occasional visits to the temple where his memorial stone is located and keep him updated with the project as it moves along. And indeed, this has already begun. A couple of the staff members and I dropped over for a short visit on his birthday back in October. And I mean, really, like, he's going to complain about this? Nearly 200 years after that project was shelved, it is getting rebooted, and his interesting images will be in circulation for everybody to enjoy. Just what he might think about the fact that it will be a foreigner directing this project and participating as one of the carvers, I can't really guess, but given our track record with his great wave design, perhaps he would be on board. Okay. I think that will do for an introduction. This project is going to be one of the most difficult things I and my workshop have ever undertaken. I have to admit, don't let the museum people hear about this, that I am not 100% confident that we can actually pull this off to the level that it deserves. This is the set of prints that I produced back in 2003, some 20 years back. It's my Studio No albums number 5. Most of the prints in this set are stunningly complex. And looking at them now, from all these years later, it's hard for me to believe, not just that I dared to try such a project, but that I pulled it off. Every 4 or 5 weeks, a new print. Selecting and then tracing every part of every design, carving the complete set of blocks, printing 200 copies, creating all the ancillary material, the stories, the website, the packaging, getting it all shipped, doing all the bookkeeping, make sure all the supplies were always available. I was young. I was immortal. I could do anything. None of those things are true anymore. And this new project is perhaps even more difficult than this was. There are going to be some very challenging procedures coming up. Now, I'm no longer alone, of course. This is going to be a team effort, but we are all going to have to work at that level. We'll see how it goes. Okay, a couple of things before I wrap this up. The website for entering subscriptions, requests for the new set, isn't open yet, but it will be ready soon, coinciding, I guess, with the yearly update video that I will release in a couple of weeks. The price, the packaging details, the postage costs, all those things, they're still being worked out, and that process is not being helped by the craziness in the currency exchange markets these days, not to mention the difficulties with logistics. But I can mention that there is no particular thought that this new series will need to be priced any differently from other recent subscription print sets we have been publishing. We are looking forward to an incredible year of challenge, hopefully turning out to be a year of accomplishment. Stand by and I'll update you soon. One more thing. Back when I was making that long series of videos on the Great Wave Project, it was early days for me in Asakusa. I was exploring the community around our shop. I took bits and pieces of video out there, and I got in the habit of adding some of those to the end of each of the videos. Well, since then, many people have asked that I get back into that habit. So why not? Let's have some bonus content on this one. And I didn't have to even head outside for this. I just went upstairs to my room, pointed my handycam out the window. I heard the music coming from the distance. Let's roll.